welcome back to the Shelter in Place CP drawing stream. If you're just now joining, we start these every evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we've been drawing this mouth since Monday, and we're going to finish up today. And there's a couple of things that I want to do just before we start working on the color on the teeth. But in particular, I want to sort of recheck some of the proportions of different things. And I've noticed one thing in particular that is not looking exactly the way that I wanted it to. So, hey, there's Harry. Harry's just about first every time. I tell you what. Good to see you over here, Harry. Harry is watching on Facebook. So, by way of reminder, if you would like to grab the reference photo and follow along, let me see if I can get this a little bit closer. There we go. You can do that if you go over to sharpenedartist.com/livestreams or sharpenedartist.com and then click on resources, top navigation, go down to live streams. Hey, Carol, how are you? Carol's over there on Facebook as well. Good to see you guys over here. Okay, so one thing, I started looking at it, and I need to, it looks to me like I need to lengthen this area. So this crease over here in the corner of the mouth is wider, needs to be wider on my drawing than what I'm seeing because comparing it over here and what I'm seeing currently. And so that's about it. I think that's what's influencing some of that perspective issue that I'm noticing anyway. So doesn't have to be 100% accurate in a study, right? Depends on what your goals are for a study. What are your goals? You know, is it to get the proportions exactly accurate, or is it to figure out the colors, or figure out a process, or define what it is ahead of time? Because that's the reason why you're doing a study is to learn some things about usually a larger project that you're going to be working on. So I want to sharpen this pencil. I'm going to use my Mars Violet, I think, just a little bit from the Derwent drawing set. So the Mars Violet is just such a great color. It's close to, excuse me, it is close in hue to the Caput Mortuum in the Polychromos line. But I had the Mars Violet color in the Derwent Lightfast line, and I quickly ran out of it because I just used it all the time. And so I reached over to the Derwent drawing set and started using the Mars Violet from that set. And that worked out just fine. So here's one way to correct this. You just start extending that dark shadow over there a little bit into that dark crease there. Okay. And then I can take, let me look here. I want to take cinnamon, sharpen that, and push this out just a little bit more and reposition my light a little bit. I see a harsh glare. Let me see if I can get closer. Oh yeah, that sandstone's such a good one too. Yeah, good point there, Carol. I like that one. Taupe. I'm trying to remember taupe. I've got tons of those light fast pencils now, and as I've bought them, I've purchased them more than once now, and I can't remember what that one looks like. Oh yeah, so it's sort of this brownish kind of purplish color, right? I think, if I remember right. I'll have to hunt that one down. I might have used that one up too. I used several of them just all the way, and to where they're little nubs. So I might need to go ahead and invest in some more. I'm sure I do. Okay. Yeah. So Harry's asking, because you use the Caput Mortem as a dark underpainting, is that what you can? Is that what you can add? These you can add these reds and oranges. If you had used burnt ochre, would you do this? So yeah. So if we compare that, I guess, to burnt ochre. Um, so let me grab burnt ochre here real quick. Here we go. Here's burnt ochre. Hey Brenda, thanks for joining over there on Facebook as well. Um, okay, so burnt ochre. Here we go. Here's burnt ochre. Let's put it up here. That's burnt ochre, 100% or full strength. I don't know how to word it if it's not 50 or 10%. But there it is. So yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to go, but yeah, some of the shadows that I used were just a bit darker. This would tint the skin enough, and I'll bet you if I use that burnt ochre right there, you wouldn't be able to tell much difference in the value and the hue that I have already down there. Same way over here. The burnt ochre, if it's not 10% or 50%, at least to me, it feels like it just has too much orange in it. Is the problem that I have with it most of the time. So I'm going to brighten this area up just a little bit because it's starting to look to me like it needs a little bit of pink or red in it. Starting to look a little dull. So I want to make sure that it doesn't look like that. So I want to add that to the entire area. If I zoomed in here, you might notice that, let me see if we can do that real quick. There we go. That we still have some of the texture of that tooth that is showing up. So let me just keep it zoomed in like that, maybe. That doesn't always bother me. I know it does some people, and but I do want to show, I guess, how you can get rid of that. If it's uneven or if it starts to, create some areas that start to look funny, went a little too far right there, then yeah, that can bother me. But otherwise, if it creates some kind of weird texture or something, but otherwise it doesn't generally bother me that much. But I know it does a lot of people, so I want to show how you can just get rid of it. But we're not going to get rid of it yet. Okay. Now, let's see here. So, I'm going to add this scarlet to most of the skin. Around the mouth, so that there is some continuity everywhere. It's just one of those things that, when you start looking at it and you think, that needs to be tinted just a little bit different than what it is. Yeah, Brenda, this is pastel matte. So this is white pastel matte. And go ahead and I just want to get it in here everywhere. You're welcome, Brenda. Okay. All right. Yeah, these are the kinds of things that I think you you just kind of build up a resilience where in the beginning, if you told me I needed to take my red out and cover the entire face with red, I would have just been like, nah, I don't think so. Because it's just so boring. It's just incredibly boring. And I just didn't have the patience for it. But when you see the result, when you're able to, step back away from it and say, oh, well, yeah, that made a difference, then you have the stamina to go ahead and do something and stick with it and make sure that, it's done. All right, so and then we'll widen this area over here just a little bit. So I'm going to add just a little more red. And I'm thinking about that edge as sort of a feathered kind of edge. I don't want this harsh line over there. So little strokes. And I'm encroaching on that lip line edge because I don't want to have some kind of area that looks like that the lips are not part of the mouth. Remember, we talked about that, I think yesterday, that the lips, they're actually part of the inside of the mouth, as far as the skin is concerned, and so they're different in color, mostly because they're part of that inside of the mouth. So there's a moisture to the lips that is different than the rest of the face, but yet they're connected to the mouth area. The mouth area is not flat. It jets out from the face in this area. And so we want to be able to depict that by showing with the lips and the teeth, especially, that there's some curvature. So it's going to be darker in these areas, right? These key areas, because this is going back towards the inside of the mouth in most cases. And then it jets out away from the mouth. That's where we get those highlights. And then we've got a shadow underneath that bottom lip because of the bottom lip sticking out. The darkest area of both of the lips is the top lip. The top lip's always going to be darker, but it's always going to be the darkest inside there. So we want to make sure that we are able to depict that. Okay. So now let me grab... I'm going to use this wild lavender, and I just want to tint. I think that's enough over there for what we're doing on the side of the mouth. I don't think we need to do more over there. We can tint this just a little bit, and then we'll tint this one as well. We're going to use more of a warm color with some blue in it for the teeth that are not as close to us, that are being pushed back farther. All right. And use that dark indigo just a little bit right there. Not a lot. I don't want to go crazy with it. Okay. And then now I'm going to use... Let me see here. Yeah. I'm going to use this brown ochre. Brown ochre 10%. Just want to tint everything just a little bit. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shade. Even if I don't see this in my reference, I can get away with doing this. I'm going to shade the top part of the teeth just a little bit. And then work my way down the teeth. Okay, now that one tooth, grab my Caput Mortem. That one tooth needs to come up just a little bit. Actually, I don't know that we need Caput Mortem in there anymore. Probably this Pompion Red will work for where we are there. All right. And oh, I forgot about the bottom teeth there. So we'll go ahead and grab this. I'm going to grab... I'm trying to keep these in my other hand while I'm using the pencil I'm currently drawing with in my right hand. Okay, here we go. Now I want to go back to our wild lavender. Now remember, we can't hardly make out what's going on inside that mouth, and that's fine. You can make up a little bit of it and just try to interpret some things, but there's some horizontal light that's hitting the teeth in our reference, And that's, skewing things just a little bit. Gonna add a little bit more of that Caput Mortuum right in here. And this comes up just a little bit. Right in there. I almost think I've got too much of a gap right in there. And this does need to be just a little tiny bit darker up here. And I can use this Caput Mortuum up here because it's going to tint what we've already done, which is fine. Okay, now let's take a look at it. And all right, so now we can add that shadow that I was talking about. So from the top down, so a little bit of a shadow at the very, very top. And then move your pencil down, lightening up on your pressure the entire time. Yeah, I think that tooth is probably a little bit too wide, but that's okay. So using that Mars Violet right now. Okay, let's see what we got here. All right. Helps me to look at the smaller image on the screen. That helps me quite a bit. Okay. Now, let me switch over to my burnt ochre 10%. Okay. Just tint that just a little bit. And down here, don't want to leave anything out here. Okay. Now, what we can do, zoom back out just a little bit more. See if we need to add, take a look at the temperature of everything. Well, one thing about it, Harry, is looking at the smaller image, I can see what the overall is looking like, and I don't, have my nose on it. But the other thing is, it helps me with perspective. I'm not looking at the image straight on like you guys are getting to do. I'm looking at it at this angle. I'm looking at it like this. So it's kind of awkward because I want the overhead camera looking straight down on it so you can see the best video image of what we're drawing. But that creates, not the ideal perspective for me. But that's okay. I mean, I can... But both of my perspectives, are off because of that. So the image reference that I'm using over here is off as well. So it works out. Okay, I need to sharpen this pencil. And I'm going to use Buff Titanium. And so I'm going to look for some areas here that need to be the brightest. So I'm coming back in here and making these just slightly brighter where I see that maybe they need to be a little brighter. And I'm pressing pretty hard at this point. And just kind of looking around for those areas. And then I can use white on top of this if I want to. in just a moment. Yeah, I've played around with it for a little bit, Harry, and I've seen what it would look like, on camera if I've got it for you guys where you're looking kind of over the shoulder. Thank you, Peggy. Peggy's over there on Facebook. Thanks for joining. And if I do that, then sure, it looks great for me, but you guys are seeing a skewed image, of it when I do that, and I don't like that as well. Okay. Should have had more of that shadow down. That's okay. All right. So it's just this constant back and forth. So we'll try that again. So often the way it goes with layering in colored pencil, right? But you have more opportunities. I tell you, the more I use Pastelmat, every time I come back to it, I'm just like, why am I not using this every time? It's just such a nice paper. Even if you don't use solvent, we haven't used any. If you've been following, we've not used any solvent or anything, but the pencils. We've been using the pencils and eraser. That's it. So that's entirely possible. Okay, now let's add just a little bit down here. All right. And probably enough. Okay, now let's grab let me look here. Grab one of these. I think sienna is a color I'm after, yeah. Or pink, right in that area. But I just want to create a little bit of a contour and shadow just to show that the teeth are not exactly flat. We've got a little bit of an unevenness going on the surface of the paper now. Okay, let's see here. Kind of fighting against it. Sometimes you do that to yourself. All right, so let me use this cinnamon color. Okay. And then I want to describe that shadow again one more time from the top down. There we go. Hey, Somia, thanks for joining over there on YouTube Live. Your paper is saturated already, and you're using Pastelmat. Pastelmat's deceiving, though. Sometimes it acts like it's saturated, and it very well could be. But sometimes it acts like that, and then you can still get more on the surface. So I would try it anyway, just to see what happens. Okay, move this down. Move it down just a little bit. And let's use, where is, okay, my Mars Violet, but I'm going to sharpen it one more time. Oh, Somia, you're using Strathmore 400 paper. So what surface is that? Is it smooth? Bristol smooth? Or depending on the surface level there, it might be saturated. Okay. And I guess it is because you said it was. All right, let's use this a little bit. Okay. Going on a little bit weird, which that happens from time to time. But I really want that color over here. But I don't want to leave those other areas out. And over here on this tooth a lot. Okay. Yeah, it's going on very unevenly. Okay, and then we're going to shade from the top down. Even if we don't see that in the reference, that still works. Brightest area of the teeth can be the very bottom. Okay. Now, come back in here with my buff titanium. And this is where I can just sort of brush this whole area. Recreate this surface. Yeah, so Somia, you if you're using that paper, depending on the surface level, but you're able to tell that it's already saturated. That can sometimes happen. Hey Peggy, how are you? Peggy is joining us over there on Facebook. Oh, thank you, Diana. Diana's also on YouTube live. Okay, come back over here. I'm getting some dust on here. I need to blow that off. There we go. And I'm going to come into that area right there in the corner, or the crease rather, of where these two teeth meet, and use this vertical stroke right here to push this back. Okay. Same way over here. Needs some strokes going this way, just a little bit. And then I'll get closer to that crease right there in the middle, lightening up my pressure as I get closer to that crease in the middle. Okay, same way over here again. I need to get a little bit closer than I did the first time. And then I'm going to switch over to this tooth, do the same thing, and come back, start right there at the edge, come back towards the middle, and lightening up the pressure. Got some kind of weird line that I put in there. I didn't mean to do that. Let's see here. So I think that Mars Violet might be a little too dark. This sienna color is close in tonal value, so not a bad way to go. You can use that this time. And actually, this is very red right up here. Right up here. And right here as well. It's just really difficult right now to get an even coverage right there. Okay. But if I was relying only on those wax-based pencils that I was using, then I would have a really hard time. But you can come back in here with these luminance pencils like the Buff Titanium, and what I'd use the term brush. You kind of brush it with this color, and it creates a nice smooth surface. It distributes the rest of that pigment evenly because it flattens it out, and it pushes that pigment into some of the tooth of the paper is what it does. Okay, let's go right in here. Okay, so this one, I'm being picky about this, but it's sometimes it's going to really, really matter. So you don't want, you don't want to create teeth that start looking really, really funny, really odd, really not like the individual you're drawing. I'm going to use my, if I can be very careful, I can use this this blue. Right there. Okay. Probably want to use it over here too. And back over here. More blue towards the top than on the bottom. And over here as well. You want to be very careful when you're adding dark colors to teeth. You don't want them to look, you don't want the teeth to look like dark indigo or caput mortem, right? We don't want that at all. So we want to be careful about what we're doing. Okay. But you notice that when you strengthen any of the dark shadows in teeth, every time you do that, then the teeth themselves become much, much brighter, right? Because you've got that harsh contrast then again. All right. That tooth keeps bothering me because it's curved a little bit down here, and I wasn't really showing that too much. I think now I am. Let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. It's probably hard to see. Just let me know, guys, if you want me to zoom in more or not. Again, if you're wanting to follow along even more and look at the reference yourself, you can download it over there at sharpenedartist.com/livestreams. And we'll get that dark area a little more correct now. Right there in the background. Okay, so I went a little bit too far into the tooth right there. early on. If I catch that, I can remove it. It'll be just fine. All right, come back in here with buff titanium. There we go. Same way over here. Let me make sure that I tint that enough. And over here as well. Okay. Now, if we wanted to make this look more like an illustration and less like reality, and just be very complementary to the subject, then what we could do is we could add white. Might make it look like a comic book too, though, if we did that. Because, you know, that's not reality. Teeth are not white. They're yellow or gray, typically. All right. I need a little. Let me find it here. My purple again. A little more. I can't leave that alone back there. I need a little more purple over here and over here. Let's see. Put a little bit more in here. If you get enough of a dark enough value in there also, then you can show some little bit of light hitting parts of the teeth, and it will help the teeth appear more realistic, because you can create more of a shine on the teeth, which sometimes you'll see that from time to time. So that can help sometimes. All right. I want to soften up that middle area just a little bit. Maybe even over here, just a little. Might have gone too blue, but there we go. Okay, now let's kind of metaphorically step back a moment, kind of look at it, and I think I'll use this Caput Mortem. I need to sharpen it. Okay, I mean, these are tight spaces right in here. Go right in here. There we go. Okay, let me see. Now, unfortunately, I wish I could see, some of the bottom lips a little bit, or the bottom teeth rather, a little bit better, but I can't. So that's okay, but it would have been helpful, I guess. Lighten this up just a little bit. Add a little bit of this purple color over there. I think that looks a lot more like the reference if I do that. Yeah, now what we could do. Oh, hey Shiny, how are you? And we could add a little bit of this white color in here as little accents and highlights. Let's see. That might be a little much putting it back there, but depends on the lighting situation, you know. Come right up there to that edge. And this isn't white, by the way, but it works. It looks like white, pretty much. This is oyster. Okay. But you see how it gave us that little bit of highlight here and there. And if I use a little bit more of a softer pressure to the tip, sort of a medium pressure right in here, I can make this a little bit brighter, but not too bright. I'll look at, you know, the tone right in there. Same way over here, probably over this way more than anything. Okay, let's take a look at that. Yeah, I mean, you know, we could spend a lot of time working on just that area, but I don't know that we need to do that, and I think we got the point, right? Okay, so what I told you is I wanted to show you how we could get rid of some of that graininess on the tooth of the paper. So if I zoom in here just a little bit more, you can see that. Now I could just use a burnisher if I'm happy with the color, you know. A lot of people do that. A lot of artists choose to do that. Nothing wrong with it. You know, because it's not going to influence the color anymore. We've got the color where we want it, and we could just come in there and press really hard, and it would get rid of a lot of that texture on the paper. We'd be left with a smooth surface, right? Well, that's one way to go. The other thing to do is use some of your harder lead pencils, the ones that aren't going to leave a whole bunch of wax buildup, and on pastel mat, this is my experience, so you have a different experience, that's fine. But on pastel mat, for me, what I notice starts happening is, I need to blow this off a little bit. If I use Derwent Lightfast, or if I use a Derwent Drawing, certainly if I use Prismacolor Premier, some other waxier pencil on top, you know, the net effect of using something that's soft, we'll put it that way, because not all those that I mentioned are wax-based, but they act like it sometimes. Then what happens is I can start getting like this clumpiness that starts happening, and I'm not able to smooth that out and create a smooth finish to my drawing. So that can happen. So I don't want that, and instead I want to use a pencil that has a harder lead. So Polychromos works really well for that, but also your Luminance pencils work really well for that very thing. The Luminance pencils are very hard. The pencil core is very hard, and you know, rather than just tell you that and you know, talk about it, I'm just going to show you how that works. So up in here, you know, if I'm looking at my reference, well, I guess I zoomed in too much, but same way over here, I guess. Don't know if I can move that closer, but anyway, I can use, you know, one of my pencils that is going to give me a lighter color, and I've already used this pencil already, so it's not like I'm introducing a brand new pencil, but now this allows me to sort of brush this entire surface. And I'm using sort of medium pressure right now. And I'm going to come back in the other direction and use pressure that's even harder than this. And then I'll zoom back in for you so you can see that it's actually smoothing out the surface. Okay, now I'm going to go this direction. You know, some other direction. It doesn't always have to be exactly the opposite. I'm using slightly harder pressure than I was a while ago. Okay, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to come back up this way though. A little bit harder pressure. And just keep working my way down. Some kind of weird line right there I want to get rid of. There we go. Okay. Okay, so down here I've got this darker shadow. So the Polychromos pencil will work down here really nicely. So first I want to press kind of hard, push it in certain directions here. You know, we've already built up all those layers down there. It should be the darkest right here and on this right side. Remember, this right side is darker than the left side. Okay, now I can come back in here. I want to switch. If I can find it. Let's see here. I want a tone that is lighter, just slightly lighter than my cinnamon pencil. And let me just smooth this out just a little bit more. And then I also want a tone though that is I don't want it to be that much different is my point from my cinnamon color, because I want it to be able to brush the whole area, cover the whole area, if you will, and not affect the color that much. Okay, so I'm going to switch back over to my burnt ochre 10% again. And use a little bit harder pressure. Try to hit it from a different angle. I gotta contort my body here a little bit to get it in the right spot here. There we go. You could even go on top of that, you know, again, with another color if you wanted to. But we're getting a saturation now. And we're getting a smooth look to that skin. Okay. Now, if I come back in here, though, and I say, hey, I need that bright highlight that you can't see now on my reference. Let me see if I can fix that for you. Okay, so you see this bright area. I say, hey, I'm losing that over here. So I can come back in here with my buff titanium. Now that this is all pretty smooth, and I can press pretty hard, and I can get this lighter color in here. it starts to come back. You know. All right. Keep working my way around. All right, so I'll zoom back in here so you can see what we just did there a little bit better, perhaps. All right, and then I'll come back in here where my, these lips are a little bit too bright in there. I was really getting carried away with trying to emphasize that bright area there, but it's more of sort of this bubblegum kind of look, kind of color right in there. So I can come back in here with what is it, medium flesh? I forget what all these names are. So Shiny's asking, so you're streaming, I'm guessing you're typing there, 5 p.m. Monday to Wednesdays lately. Is that right? And is there another regular time spot? Yeah, so we do this particular drawing stream where we're covering some facial features. We're doing this one on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Yes. And then Monday morning is a different live stream that we do. And we've been doing that one for a while. And so that one is at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So if you are able to join us on that one, that'd be awesome. Okay, I'll come back up in here. Had a little bit of graininess going on up in there. And we can use this to I hate to use the word fix because I don't really see it as a problem, but to get rid of that if we want to. And then I can use I really like the tint of this particular color because it's a good color for around the lips as well as on the lips themselves. And if you notice, there's this little bit of a ring, this vertical kind of line around the lips on this particular model, this particular set of lips, and you'll often see that. You don't notice it too much until you start looking closer and getting a zoomed in view of this particular feature, but it's there, and it's there in a lot of lips, and so you don't want to leave it out if it's there. Once you zoom out, you're not going to really notice it too much, but it's something that is there, and so we do want to put it in there. All right. Okay. I'm going to use that buff titanium over here. I don't want that to be too pink. It's just like falling in love with this paper all over again when you start using it. Like, oh my word, this is just so nice. Okay. Right there. All right. Now, let's use my If I can find it, here it is. I want to use that light flesh color. That's what they're calling it. And I want to put that in most of these areas right here. That highlight is not white. Sometimes, you can get away with making it white if you want sometimes, but for the most part, most of the time, it's not white. Most highlights are not white. Sometimes we'll just get a little sloppy sometimes, or lazy, or whatever you want to call it. And I do it too. And we'll just use white because it's easy. But often it's not that color, Okay. I mean, we could get carried away with and obsess over the detail on a lot of the texture of the lips, and that would be fun. We could do that, and it would be a lot of fun. But I'm not going to do that. I want to add just a few little things right in here, though. Just because. And some of these things, I mean, they'll change. Depending on, the model, and then also depending on the particular pose of the same model. They may appear different from day to day, or from shot to shot, if you're using your photo reference. That area right there is a little too pink now. There we go. Okay. All right. So I think we're gonna go ahead and call this done. I mean, there's so many things that we could keep doing, but I don't think we need to. And all right, I think we're going to call that done. All right, well, guys, we'll start again on Monday, and we're going to start a new feature on Monday. I've got some ideas on what it is. Thanks, Carol. Appreciate that over there on Facebook. Thanks, guys, for watching. I really appreciate it, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube Live or Twitter. And, yeah, I'm not going to announce it yet, but I will put the reference over there in on the live streams page. So, again, you can go to sharpenedartist.com/livestreams. I probably will cover ears, Carol, but I don't know that I'm going to do that this coming Monday. So all right, see you, Shiny. Thanks for coming. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do either ears or hair, or I'm going to do one eye, a little more zoomed in on one eye. Those are the likely prospects for what we'll start covering on Monday. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Have a great night, and thanks again. We'll talk to you soon.